Welcome to Mortification of Spin, Bully Pulpit, a casual conversation about things that count, with Carl Truman, Todd Pruitt, and Amy Bird. Mortification of Spin is a weekly podcast from the Alliance of Confessing Evangelicals. Christians buy a lot of books, but they're not all great. Today, the Spin team takes a look at the Christian bestsellers list and talks about the importance of reading quality books. At the end of the podcast, we'll tell you how to download a free MP3 from the Alliance.
Well, it's a new year, and one of the things we like to do is recommend books to our faithful listeners. Always plenty of great stuff to read out there. Now, I was looking at one that I think Amy and Carl might be particularly interested in. It's, as I was looking at the Christian bestseller list online, I saw this one particular book called The Circle Maker, Praying Circles Around Your Biggest Dreams and Greatest Fears by Mark Batterson. Do you ever sense that there's far more to prayer and to God's vision for your life than you're experiencing? Then it's time you learned from the legend of Honi, the Circle Maker, a man bold enough to draw a circle in the sand and not budge from inside it until God answered his prayers for his people. What impossibly big dream is God calling you to draw a prayer circle around? So, that hooks me right off the bat. And I can already envision all kinds of products to go along with that, like the Circle Maker pen, or a Circle Maker stick to actually circle in the sand. There's all kinds of things we could do. A Circle Maker prayer shawl, a Circle Maker shofar, maybe something like that.
The Belinda Carlisle song, Circle in the Sand.
Nice.
Remember that one?
Nice. Good 80s or early 90s reference.
Could come along right with the book, yeah.
Man, that would be nice.
Circle in the sand, circle in the sand.
I guess where we go from here is, Amy, why do so many Christian women read garbage?
Well, Todd, there's a new catchphrase I've been hearing, and that is a courageous conversation.
Ooh,
and
nice.
I think it's time for us to have a courageous conversation about the crap that is being marketed to the church again.
Is this going to get us in trouble?
What it's filling our minds with.
Yeah.
Because I'm really finding that it's bad Christian, well, they're not really Christian, but bad marketed as Christian books are really causing a lot of division in women's ministries in the churches. Women that I'm talking to are having serious problems with wanting to weed out bad books, people in the ministry wanting to do a book study on, a book that's full of mysticism, right, or that directly challenges the sufficiency of Scripture, and are angry when they are challenged about it.
Right. Well, I was looking online at a Christian bestseller list for the months of November and December. And, I again, there was the Circle Maker along with all of its various additions that go along with it. Of course, Jesus Calling is still up there. There's a book called Whispers of Hope by Beth Moore. There's a book called Becoming Myself, Embracing God's Dream of You. There's a book called, there's some Joyce Meyer, there's Joel Osteen in there. There's a handful of Christian romance novels that looked very, very intriguing.
I think
but nothing good, of course.
What we see here is really Christian marketing aping the wider consumer culture in which we operate. A book about becoming yourself. The title is self-evidently garbage. You are yourself from the moment you're born till the moment you die.
Right.
I've told people this before. I remember going to Morocco in 1987 to find myself, only to find that I was there all along, between the soles of my feet and the top of my head. Yeah, right. I was there. But a book with that sort of title is clearly pitched to the self-oriented consumer culture in which we live. Right. And of course, if consumerism teaches us anything, it teaches us that the trashier, the cheaper, the higher you can pile them, the easier it is to ship them out.
Right.
it's another example, a bit like Christian rock music, of Christianity aping the worst aspects of the wider culture.
Yeah. And one of the things, and you alluded to this, Carl, one of the things about so many of these books is, can you imagine any of them selling outside of a very comfortable, prosperous setting where the biggest problems Christians have to deal with is, how can I find myself? They're simply a reflection of an indulgent culture. So listen to this. There's a book on the bestseller list called The Best Yes. And here's some of the blurb from the book. Cure the disease to please with a biblical understanding of the command to love. Escape the guilt of disappointing others by learning the secret of the small no. Overcome the agony of hard choices by embracing a wisdom-based decision-making process. Rise above the rush of endless demands and discover your best yes today. So can you imagine marketing that to Christians in the majority world where it's actually difficult to follow Jesus? So imagine marketing that to Christians in Nigeria who are being slaughtered by Muslims and saying, listen, the secret here for you is to rise above the rush of endless demands. It's ludicrous to even imagine it.
Yeah, it's a self-help kind of manual that only works very well in a society that is, as you put it, very comfortable and not having to face the deepest and most profound questions of existence on a daily basis.
Right.
You know, if you're waking up in the morning thinking you might die that day, your question is going to be very, very different.
Right.
If you're waking up in the morning and you don't know how you're going to pay the bills, or you don't know where your next meal is coming from, the kind of questions you ask are going to be very, very different.
Indeed.
This is full of the psychological language that our world uses right now. And
Yeah.
I mean, what is a soft yes? Or was it a soft no?
Yeah,
Your best yes.
You have to learn the secret of
does
the
that mean?
of the
Come
soft no. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so Amy and Carl, the question becomes, even though there's plenty of men who read this junk, clearly so much of it is marketed towards women in the church.
Yes,
and clearly it's been successful.
Why
Why
I
is
believe
that?
part of the success is, well, I think there's two things. I mean, obviously they're using sentimentality and emotional stories to pull women in, and then the bad doctrine just gets snuck in through the back door.
Right.
And so it's the emotions that are authoritative here.
Right.
And we were talking before we got online about this, just about how the complementarian doctrines that we're learning and embracing in the church, which, there's so much benefit to, somehow the pendulum may have swung a little too far, where women are not seeing the importance of learning good doctrine. And we're really losing the art of discernment and the ability to separate truth from lies, I think. Or we just don't think it's important when we're reading something that's entertaining. I don't know.
And I think we see this in the patriarchy movement, where clearly the line is, listen, let the little ladies, if they've got questions about doctrine, let them ask their husband. But you really just need to make sure that the cookies are hot.
Yeah, although I'm not sure that it's exclusive to the patriarchy movement. I think in the complementarian movement one finds this as well. I've been interested in, over the last couple of years, when I'm preaching or speaking away and I'll be in somebody's house. I always like to look at the bookshelves. You can tell a lot about a person by looking at the bookshelves. And quite often it seems to me that in some of the most, I describe as orthodox complementarian houses, I find that the women's literature, for want of a better word, is of this sentimental drivel variety. You'll see your Anne Voskamp, for example, slotted onto the shelf there. Now, I'm sitting next to a shelf full of Marxist theory here. Somebody walks into my room and looks at this, they're going to say, well, is Truman some kind of way out communist? Well, no, that happens to have been an interest of mine from a historian's perspective. So I'm aware that people own books for different reasons, not necessarily because they're committed to them or because they're passionately interested in the specific philosophy being advocated. But it does strike me as interesting that in a world where there are very, very careful lines drawn between the roles of men and women, it seems that theology as a task is becoming an increasingly male preserve, and that's a problem. And even in some of the better literature that's being written by women in the sort of the reform movement, a lot of it's preoccupied with sort of, theology for, dare I say it, name is coming, but theology for housewives, where the emphasis is upon the housewifing, not the theology, if I could put it that way. I think Amy is a definite exception to what I'm trying to say here. But
no, I think what you're saying is that it's going towards women's issues and women's roles more than just as a whole person.
Yeah. And I think also lack of discernment, poor discernment is no respecter of persons. We see it across the board in evangelicalism, from conservatives to liberals and everything in between. And one of the books that's on the bestseller list, of course, is Max Lucado's latest. He's a perennial figure on the bestseller list, and apparently it's about the Lord's Prayer. It's called Before Amen. And one of the things in the blurb for it is, when Jesus was teaching his disciples to pray, he didn't give them a doctrine of prayer. Well, that's just a false choice. The Lord's Prayer happens to be freighted with doctrine. But again, in order to appeal to people in general evangelicalism, it's almost like the book has to go out of its way to marginalize doctrine. Right. As if to say, hey, you're going to like this book. It has nothing to do with doctrine.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's this idea then also that doctrine divides. And
which it does. Yep.
Yeah. But it also gives us true unity and not a superficial unity.
Without a doubt.
And I think that a lot of times we downplay that, and especially with women, because we don't want to appear to be divisive. And so we think that if we disagree on something, then that's a bad thing. But I think that can be a really sharpening thing, a really good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you hit a really important point there, because oftentimes what's happening in broader evangelicalism is that churches kind of coalesce, or they unite around a series of purposes rather than a confession of faith. So what happens is doctrine is marginalized, activity, the things I do, is what becomes central to us being a church.
Right.
And so there's no doubt you can gather some unity for a while around some common core values, quote unquote, or some purposes. But what is oftentimes actively avoided is unity around a comprehensive and weighty confession of faith.
Yeah, and Paul is very clear at the end of Romans when he talks about these men who are divisive because they've parted from the faith. They parted from correct teaching. We tend to think of orthodoxy as something that divides, whereas in the New Testament, orthodoxy is part and parcel of what unites the church and gives her unity.
Yeah, and in 2 Timothy, we see Paul asking Timothy to look out for the false teachers teaching bad doctrine, and that they are targeting weak women. And so I think that pastors need to be more proactive in, what Todd's doing here, looking at the bestseller list, seeing what their congregation is reading and teaching them how to discern. Because, bad doctrine is a lie. And as soon as you start believing a lie, you start living a lie.
Yeah, and it hurts people. It hurts people because practical. It's a lie. Absolutely. And pastors need to be ready that if they get up and say, hey, look, Jesus calling, for instance, is really problematic. They need to be ready to get slammed on that because a lot of people have invested some real emotional energy in some of these books.
But then that, I think, points to a positive pastoral strategy in that I don't think it's enough to say these books are bad. I think what you need to do is to say, but these books are good. And one of the things I think, for example, if Jesus Calling comes up, somebody came up to you and said, but I really find Jesus Calling helpful. My approach would be, well, why do you find it helpful? Well, it's a daily devotional. It's written in a way that's accessible. To then say to that person, well, those are good things. You're latching onto good things that in that book, but you can get them a whole lot better over here.
Yeah. What I've told a lot of people in our church, we make sure it's reflected in our little book area, is look, if you're looking for a good daily devotional, that's a great thing. I still make use of some good daily devotional books. Yeah. Just go to Amazon or WTS Books, plug in the name Nancy Guthrie, and get one of those.
Yeah.
And you'll get solid
Much better
instruction from the Bible. Absolutely.
Avoid Amy Bird, though. Avoid Amy Bird. There's all kinds of deception creeping in there.
There's a problem.
So,
One of my reviews does say that. Very troubling.
yeah, that was the one Todd wrote, I think. Hey, well, it's been great having you all joining us for Mortification of Spin, Bully Pulpit, where we've once again put the world to rights and hopefully given you some positive strategies. As I say, the key thing is making sure that you read good literature, that you fill your head with good things. We haven't quite solved the reason why women seem particularly vulnerable to reading nonsense, which leads me really to my final question for Amy, which I'll pass on to her as we leave. And that is, Amy, why can't a woman be more like a man?
Gosh.
Does everyone do what the others do? Can't a woman learn to use her head? Why do they do everything their mothers do? Why don't they grow up, well, like their father instead? Why can't a woman
Take after a man. Men are so pleasant, so easy to please. Whenever you're with them, you're always at ease. Would you be slighted if I didn't speak for hours?
Of course not.
Would you be livid if I had a drink or two?
Nonsense.
Would you be wounded if I never sent you flowers?
Never.
Well, why can't a woman be like you?
Thanks for listening to Mortification of Spin, Bully Pulpit, a podcast of the Alliance of Confessing Evangelicals. The Alliance is a coalition of pastors, scholars, and churchmen who hold the historical creeds and confessions of the Reformed faith and who proclaim biblical doctrine in order to foster a Reformed awakening in today's church. Make sure to visit our website, mortificationofspin.org, to download Understanding God's Will, a sermon from Derek Thomas. And tune in next week to hear the team continue their discussion with Dr. Kent Hughes, answering questions from die-hard fanboys.
Okay, so this one is for the Mortification of Spin team. Now that you have your own exclusive web platform, having reached the pinnacle of celebrity evangelicalism, what is the view like from the top? P.S. Will you sign my Bible? I'm a big fan.
Hear more next week. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to visit mortificationofspin.org to download your free MP3.
Yeah, I mean, there has been a worldwide shortage of Afghans lately, just because women are not in their place. I remember a day when we had Afghans on every sofa.
No one is
We
there
had
to fetch
Afghans on. We had Afghans on every sofa. We had Afghans on every chair, and now you can't even find one anymore. Thanks a lot, ladies.
It's a beautiful
Yeah.
place now.
You
Without
refer
all
to-
the Afghans on the
You refer
chairs.
to them as chicks and they take offense. I mean,
Exactly. I mean, where am I supposed to go to
the
find a
speech
fuzzy
code's
blanket
impossible.
that has like purple and brown and yellow all together? Because nobody's making Afghans anymore.
Oh my
only-
goodness.
Thanks, feminists.
The only women making decent quilts are the Amish, and I think there's a lesson there. There's a lesson there.
That's right. That's right.
So,